Shalom, beloved, and hopefully everyone's doing wonderful today. You know, family, the more I research and study the Bible, it becomes more and more apparent to me that the religious institutions and the powers that be created a lot of these bad doctrines to keep us confused, right? To keep us not only confused, but to keep us from reconnecting to the covenant that the Most High gave our ancestors, you know, by identifying with the people in the book. And today what I want to do, family, is I really want to address one of the doctrines. I mean, there's many, but I want to address one, and that is, who are the two witnesses? And if it's the Most High's will, you know, as we go through this, it's going to be obvious that, again, that's what the doctrines were created for. It was created as a stumbling block. Now, before I get into it, let me start off by giving all glory and honor to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, to His Son, the heir of the throne, Yeshua HaMashiach. I'd also send out a greeting to the brothers and sisters that's trying to teach and reach the children of the diaspora, and also to the Gentiles that are gathered with us. In sincerity to you guys, I say, Shalom. Also, before I start off in Revelation chapter 11, let's do this. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 14, and let's get verse 33. For Elohim is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the churches of the saints. See, the Most High is not the author of confusion, and neither are the churches of the saints. So if the churches are confusing us, if the religious authorities are confusing us, then how can they be for the Most High? I mean, this should not be complicated for people to just tell the honest to God truth, right? So anyway, let's go to the book of Revelations. Let's go to the book of Revelations chapter 11, and let's start off at verse 1. And there were given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise, and measure the temple of Elohim, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and in the holy city shall they trodden underfoot 42 months. And I will give Salat. And I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks, standing before the Elohim of the earth. Already, most of us already see, once we really begin to read it and let the book speak for itself, we see that it's not talking about Moses and Elijah or Enoch and Elijah. It is clearly talking about the northern and the southern kingdom becoming one nation. Because again, let's break this down. Let's break this down. Okay, let's start off at verse 1, and in the middle of verse 1. And the angel stood, saying, Rise, and measure the temple, and the temple of Elohim, and the altar, and them that worship therein. Now, who worship in the temple and in the altar? It would be the priest, right? It would be the priest. Tell you what, let's do this here. Let's do this here. Let's go to the book of Exodus. Let's go to Exodus. And let's get chapter 19, and let's just, I mean, there's other verses, other scriptures we can get, but I'm going to pick this one. Exodus chapter 19, verse 6. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And Moses came and called the elders of the people and laid before their face all those words which Yahweh commanded him. Because again, it was supposed to be a representative from every tribe, right? But Moses went, you know. So again, this is prophetic of the fulfillment of what the Most High originally intent is for all 12 tribes to be a nation of kings and priests. That's why they're measuring the temple and the court, right? I mean, the temple and the altar. So if the people are in the land saying they're the people which will represent one tribe, and that's Judah, what are the other 11 brothers? That is a question. But the book answered it already, you know, for those that really get it. But let's read verse 2 of chapter 11 of Revelation. But the courts which is without the temple leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they trodden underfoot. Who? The Gentiles is going to trodden underfoot. Where did we hear this before? Let's go to the book of Luke. Let's go to Luke 21. Luke 21. And let's start off at verse 22. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things that are written may be fulfilled. Now, the things that were written are in the so-called Old Testament. This is why they don't like you to go to the so-called Old Testament. That's why they try to separate the book. But anyway, tell you what, let's edify that even more. So we're going to come back to Luke. Let's go to Romans chapter 15. And let's get verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. See, the things that were written in the scriptures were written for our learning, right? That we may understand the Most High's words, right? There was no so-called New Testament at this time. They would only read from the Old Testament, the so-called Old Testament books. But somebody's trying to get you to not read those books because, again, it's evident who the real people are when you go to the Old Testament. But anyway, which covers another doctrine. But maybe the Most High will allow me to do a video lesson on that one at a later time. But anyway, let's go back to Luke. Luke chapter 21, right? And I stopped at verse 22. So now verse 23. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck. In those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and a wrath upon each people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. We just looked at that. We just read that in the book of Revelations, that the Gentiles shall trodden, that the holy city shall be trodden underfoot of the Gentiles. So again, this is what the Messiah was saying. John the Revelator was saying the same thing the Messiah was saying. Again, but let's say something, that all be fulfilled. So what was to be fulfilled? What was to be fulfilled? What was written in the so-called Old Testament? See, this is so. Let's go to the book of Salak. Let's go to the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 9, and let's get verse 27. Right. We're going to get verse 27 of Genesis chapter 9. Elohim shall enlarge Japhet, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. So the Most High shall enlarge Japhet, and Japhet shall dwell in the tents of Shem. I know already, most of you guys that are honest, you already see what's happening here, right? It's just, everything's just lining up perfectly, according to the words of the Most High, right? Let's jump down to chapter 10, and let's read chapter 10 in the genealogy. Now these be the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The son of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Medal, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrese. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Rephath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dudinim. By these are the out of the Gentiles divided in their land, everyone after their tongue, after their families and their nation. I know it just jump out at you guys that really are honest. So there's a people that call themselves Ashkenazi Jews. But Ashkenaz is the son of Gomer, and Gomer is the son of Japhet. Japhet shall dwell in the tents of Shem. You find it ironic that these people call themselves by the lineage of Japhet, but they're dwelling in the tents of Shem? Man, oh man, oh man. I mean, you can't make this up, man. You can't make this up. You can't make this up. But let's continue to edify this here. Let's continue to edify this here. Let's stay in Genesis. And let's go to the Genesis chapter 15, and let's get verse 13. Genesis 15 and 13. And he said unto Abram, who? The Most High, right? He's talking to Abram. Know for surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward they shall come out with great substance. you can't make this up, man. I mean, the Most High's word is perfect. It's perfect. You know what I'm saying? So if they shall be a stranger in a land that's not theirs, that means that's fulfillment of, again, saying that they will not be in their own land because somebody else is in their land, right? Which the Messiah said in the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 24, and they shall fall by the edge of sword, they shall be led away captive into all nations. So if they're not in their own land, they're going to be strangers. They're going to be strangers in the land that's not theirs. And guess what? They was afflicted. They're being afflicted. See, people like to mask and say, well, slavery been, an institution on the, in the earth since the beginning of time. Yes, that's true to a degree. But there's indentured servants and there's chattel slavery. The book is talking about the people going into chattel slavery, right? Again, being forced into slavery against their own will. These other people that was indentured servants, they volunteered, to pay off a debt. So you can't compare the two. You know what I'm saying? But there's a race of people that this fit. Exactly, right? And this is why this is why they're restoring the temple for the original people. But there's imposters trying to act like they're the people. The book, from Genesis to Revelation, and from Revelation to Genesis, the book lines up. Again, let's make this make sense. Let's go back to Revelations. Let's go back to Revelations chapter 11, and let's get what? Let's get, where is that? Revelation chapter 11, verse 4. These are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks, which stand before the Elohim, of the earth, right? Again, this is clearly talking about the northern and the southern kingdom, right? Again, so if the people that are in the land saying they're the people, where are the other 11 brothers? Let's make it make sense. I'll tell you what, let's just jump up to verse 3, because again, that's something else we have to look at. And I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. Again, there's a group of people that are prophesying and telling the world who are the real people of the book, what's going on in the earth. But people don't want to pay attention to them. It's like they would rather follow man-made doctrine and religion, again, to suit their egos and their feelings, right? But it's not lining up with the book. In fact, like I said, if Moses or Elijah or Enoch would stand right now in the earth and ask, well, and tell people that they are the people of the book, or they're the witnesses that's been spoken of, most people would have a hard time accepting that, right? Let's be real about it. We couldn't even identify them. We could not even identify how they would look outside of their phenotype. And we see largely that most of the world don't even want to accept the phenotype, right? They don't even accept that, right? So we know that right there would not even make sense. But there's a race of people that would fit the prophetic nature of the nation that would represent this, right, according to the scriptures, and also have to fulfill this. So it all lines up. But anyway, family, like I said, I just thought after reading this, man, and going over this, it just was apparent that the doctrine of, you know, has been given to us by mainstream religion, you know, with Moses or Elijah or Enoch being, you know, one of the two witnesses, is not lining up. It's clearly talking about the northern and the southern kingdom and about, you know, measuring the court for the fulfillment of the Most High's will. You know, that the nation of Israel shall be a nation of kings and priests, right? But anyway, family, like I said, I all praise the Most High. I just want to share this with you guys, and hopefully you will edify. For those that may not get it, you know, study to show thyself approval. Anyway, family, with that being said, as usual, peace, love, shalom.